All right. Okay, so back into it. Could you walk us through the moment you met Linda?
Yes, I remember going to the airport. I was beyond nervous. I can't tell you how just, it was crazy. And I had my mother and sister-in-law went with me because I wanted them to stand in the background and capture it on pictures. That was before video cameras. Um, and yeah, I remember the moment she came off the concourse because I had seen a picture, so I knew what she looked like, and we both just started bawling. I can't explain. We just hugged, and just, it's so hard to explain. Somebody I'd never met my whole life, but the power of blood, the power of meeting somebody that you're related to. It's so hard to explain to people, but it was incredible. It was very, very emotional. And I'm sure people around us had no idea what was going on, but it was a very, very emotional moment.
So after that initial meeting, what did you guys talk about? What did you do? I mean, was it planned out? Was it just kind of like, hey, let's just see where this goes? Or
Yeah, I remember her and my half sister were staying in a hotel, but Linda came to my apartment, and I just remember sitting there talking, like just asking all these questions, and I just remember she kept looking at me. My hair was much darker at the time, a very dark brunette then, and she just kept looking at me and saying how much I looked like my father. She just couldn't get over my dark features and how much I looked like him, and that made me feel excited, and I was like, wow, I wonder what he looks like. And then we just talked about quirky things like, what kind of things do you like to do? And I remember the one thing that I thought was really funny. Somehow we got onto the subject of when I go to sleep, I have to have it completely dark, that I turn my radio around. And she said she was exactly the same way. And we had a good laugh because that doesn't seem like something that would be biological, but I just thought it was ironic that we were both that way. So I thought it was cool.
so when you were talking about your dad, when did you find out
Find out about him?
that he was no longer?
Oh, yeah, she probably then would have told me.
Was it in person or was it over the phone?
Gosh, yeah, you'd think I'd remember that. You would think I'd remember that, but I honestly don't remember. But she told me the whole history. It was very fascinating to hear about the history of them and how they met.
Could you go into detail?
Would I go into detail?
Yeah, give us a little backstory on your parents.
So probably the quickest way to say it was my mother grew up in a very conservative home, but her father was an alcoholic, and she fell in love with another man who I think would have been really good for her, but the dad didn't like him for whatever reason, and he basically chased him off. And Linda basically decided that, fine, if you don't like that, then I'm going to go find the most wild guy out there. And then she met my father. And they worked together at, I think it was called Donaldson's or something in Minneapolis. And they worked together and met, hit it off, and he was a big partier. He was a she found the wild boy and got pregnant, and then ironically her best friend that worked with her at Donaldson's would later become my father's wife. Crazy. Then that's how I found out it was a work accident, where it was a delivery truck. They had got back from a delivery and it was out back, and he had jumped out of the truck to whatever guide him back, and unfortunately the person driving the truck thought he had it. Thought he was pulling away, but he backed up and he was crushed and he died on the way to the hospital. So, yeah, that's how I found out. So that was a bummer, but I did find out that I had a half brother. So I was very excited to know that I had a half brother by my father.
How did the reality of this reunion and all this information and this experience match with your expectations, or did you have any?
No, I don't know that I had any expectations because I just know my whole life I just wanted to know who I look like. So I was just thrilled that I found her, and subsequently then later I flew out to Minnesota to meet my siblings. I would meet her brothers who did not know about me until I found her. I was a big secret to everybody. My mother was sent away when she was pregnant with me until she had me. 57 years ago, it was a very shameful thing to be pregnant out of wedlock, so they sent her away. Her own two brothers, her younger brothers, didn't even know about me till I found her. But even then, although my grandmother loved me, it wasn't made public, if you will. It wasn't social media back then, but it wasn't told to everybody else because it was still, not that she was ashamed of me, but it was still a shameful time of life. And so all Linda's friends didn't find out about me till many years later after her mother passed away. And then she sent out a Christmas letter and told everybody about me. So.
How did your adopted family react to you wanting to find your birth parents, and then subsequently after you met them? Was it big a deal? Was it no big deal?
It was funny because growing up, my mom would always be more sensitive about it, but my dad would always told me he'd be happy to help me. He'd do whatever he could to help me. Then when it came right down to it and I found him, my dad was more sensitive about it, even though my birth father was dead. So he never had to know that I was going to meet him. But my dad is the one who got a little bit more strange, and my mom was okay with it. I think my mom's biggest fear was I was going to call Linda Mom. And actually my mom shared with me that she had a fear that I was actually just going to walk away from my family and go back to my birth family, which is the most bizarre thought, not even comprehend, because my mom is my mom. She's the one who raised me. And still to this day, Linda will sign cards, love Mom. And my mom doesn't like that, but I just told her, I said, you have to understand, I'm her baby who she gave away, and I will never call her Mom. I call her Mom Linda, but so it was just interesting to see how it flipped, how my dad was so supportive, and then when it came down to it, he was a little funny about it. But
did you have to, because it's a little, it's natural, but it's not really of a choice. When did you realize that you're like, was it before you even met Linda, that you're like, this is Linda, not my mom. I'm going to call the woman who raised me Mom. Did that not even cross you? It was like, I'm just meeting someone else? Or did you have to make like a conscious decision? Like after you met Linda, you're like, okay, should I call her Mom? Should I not call her Mom?
no, it never felt natural to call her Mom, and she understood that, and she totally understood that. Never crossed my mind because it just seemed weird. It just seemed weird, yeah. So I do Mother's Day cards, but I knew I would never call her Mom.
So, that sounds like you had to do a little bit of reconciling after that experience, just kind of placing, this is my Linda Mom, and, I still have my real mom. Did that take some time I mean, to like where you are today, obviously, you know, it's been 30 plus years since you've gone through this experience, and so everything's normal now. But was there a transition period to kind of your relationship with your adopted family?
Well, I think especially with my mom, I think I was very aware and sensitive to when I would talk to her about Linda. And I think I kept a lot of stuff to myself because I didn't want to hurt mom's feelings. And it would be 2 years later when I would be getting married, um, that's probably where I was most aware of. I was going to have my birth mother at my wedding and my mom.
And that was the first time they met?
Yeah, I guess it would have been. Yeah, because mom didn't live out here. So yeah, they would have met right before my wedding. So I was and Linda was very cool about it, that my mom sat on the front row, and Linda, I gave her a special flower, but she sat like 2 rows behind. I was just very aware that mom was mom and she was going to be the mom of the bride that day. But just trying to make sure everybody felt special, but also being sensitive to how that might make them feel or my mom feel.
It's kind of hard, kind of juggling that. I mean, do you think she was on the same page? You know, especially, I mean, she has kids of her own and stuff, but understanding, like, you know.
I do, but I think, understandably, I know there's a part of her that just really wants to probably be more, I don't know if more involved is the word for it, but thankfully she has always been just really cool about it because she understands. And when she met my mom, I mean, she gave her a big hug, and there was a lot of tears in that meeting as well, because she knew she raised me, and she was there in those moments when I was a baby and growing up that she missed, and she was grateful. So I appreciated to see how much Linda, the respect that she gave to mom, and the appreciation for her.
So, in kind of wrapping up, how does